Hi, it's Polly with Get Busy Thriving, and I was just meeting with a client about goal setting, and it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. And whether it's your personal life or your business life, goals, they call us forward, they compel us. Quick note: one of the things I want to share is about in 1979 they did a study with Harvard MBA students and to see how many of them, what their plans were for the future, how many of them have goals and whatnot. 3% had clear written goals on paper. I think there was like 7% or 9% had some ideas, right? But they didn't have anything written, no clear goals or plans. And the other 80-something, 90% had no goals whatsoever. So these are like Harvard, really smart people getting out of, MBA program in grad school, going into life. They checked up with these people 10 years later. What's amazing is the 3% that had clear written goals were making 10 times what the other 97% were making. That's just phenomenal. So that just shows you the power of when you know what you want, you know your outcome, and then you work towards and you commit to it, what's possible for you. I mean, 10 times as much was possible in 10 years. So 2 ways you can go about goal setting. Just these are 2 examples. You can do historical, or I would call it maybe present tense even. So it's looking at where you are right now and creating an incremental factor. So, I'm X weight and I want to be X weight. For men, sometimes it's more, and for women, sometimes it's less. You can do a little bit more, a little bit less from where I am right now. Or historically, over the past year, I've earned X amount, or I've had X amount of clients, and next year I want to grow that by 10 or 20%. Or I've spent, 3 vacations this year, and how many days or weeks of the year you were off, and growing that next year. So you can have, like, based upon the present or the recent past, what's the next increment that you want to do. Call that like looking into the past or the present and then creating goals. And the other one is visioning. And so it's coming up with goals and dreams out of nothing. And some people that's really easy. It's just like, I have a dear friend who's a creator. There's a great test that you can take, like, are you a creator? Are you a mechanic? Are you a builder? Networker, connector, those types of things. She's a creator, and this woman just has dreams and ideas and inspirations never ending. I'm not one of those people. I have some, but what I wanted to say is you can't, and something that's important. I was listening to an article about Steve Jobs, and I was reading an article about Steve Jobs, and it talked about how when he took back over Apple, Apple was flailing. They were like 3% of the market in the computer market at the time. This was many years ago. And he sat down with his executives when he took back over, and he said, "What business are we in?" And they're like, "Dude, Steve Jobs, you should know we're in the computer business." And he said, He says, "No, we need to think differently than that." And he got them thinking about what business are we in, and that just totally blew away how they had been perceiving themselves. They weren't going to go anywhere if they just kept, it probably would have grown at some percentage, whatever, with Steve's leadership coming back in. But in order to innovate and think differently, they had to just expand their minds. They said, well, we're in the music business. We're in the communications business. So that put them in the iPad market. That put them in the iPhone market. It just totally transformed that business to one of the largest companies in the world. So, and even in your personal life, like, what's possible for you? So I had a couple of questions that I thought of and I wanted to share with you to just get those juices flowing for you in goal setting. So it's one thing, it's not too hard, I would say, to look at where you are and to create an incremental change. So that's easy. So some goal questions to get the juices stirring in the area of, like, well, what's possible? What else do I want for myself? Visioning something. It's using your imagination, right? So one of the questions is, what can I improve in this area? So if you there's a great chart for a wheel of life, which is like all of the quadrants of your life. You could have, family, career, health, finances, let's say community, spirituality, etc. And you looked at each one and you said, what can I improve in this area? That goes along with the, taking an improvement from where I am to another level. And what would make this area of life spectacular? So it's like, what does a spectacular life look like in that area, right? So taking each one and going, wow, if I could have anything, like, it would be spectacular. My health would be spectacular. My relationships would be just off the charts. My finances were spectacular, what would that look like? What is that number? How would you define that? And then another thing is like, what's possible in the next 2 to 5 years? Like just blowing it up to opening your mind, sitting in a nice quiet place, closing your eyes and saying, what's possible for my health in the next 2 to 5 years? And then something else, a nice simple question is, what's one thing I want to work on in this area? Because sometimes when I see people get stuck or they get kind of plateau, is they try and take on the entire wheel of life at the same time, right? And I liken that to when I tell the story. It's like, well, for women this might be a little easier to understand, but I hope everyone can follow this. And that is, I remember I had a home and I started redecorating it, and I tried to take on redecorating a lot of rooms at the same time. And I don't mean just like, oh, let me like paint a wall. I mean, tearing things out and new cabinets in the kitchen and flooring and you name it, right? Furniture, top to bottom. I was like, whoa. And it was just like living in chaos all the time, which wasn't very fun. So instead, I realized, wow, I wouldn't have all this chaos and things wouldn't feel like they're taking forever because I had my energy so distributed. I said, well, let me just work room from room, right? If I can make the bathroom really nice. So each time I go in there, it's like, yeah, it feels great. And then I go to the next room, and it's like the bathroom doesn't get destroyed or go into chaos just because I started working on the next room. It's done. It's fine. Not to say that you don't need to keep all the, the plates spinning in your life, because you can't just ignore your health and then go on to your kids. It's like, no, you keep, now that you have your health in order, you know what it takes to maintain that. Now have a deeper relationship with your kids, right? You're taking care of yourself, have a deeper relationship with them or your spouse or what have you. So, what's one area that I can work on in that particular thing? And thinking of a spectacular life, right? Like open your mind up to what's possible, because I love that line. Even if we aim for the moon, at least we hit the stars, right? It's better than, aiming for a little bit, and it's like, and even if you don't get that, it just doesn't feel very inspiring, right? We're compelled with these big dreams and goals. So find something and maybe work on one area at a time or a couple areas at a time, and don't try and redecorate the whole house. So I hope that's helped, some tips on goal setting.